Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for Hey Little Magpie. And for this layout I'm using the 49er Market range Vintage Artistry Serenity. So you can just see I'm just going through what I've got left. In fact I've got quite a lot, more than I thought actually. And I'm just putting the 6x8 papers to one side and I'm having a look at the 12x12s. Now I've decided to use this one as the background for this layout. It's called Tranquil. And I'm just taking the 12x12 rub-ons and cutting a couple off the main sheet that I really like. They're both just like sprigs. One's bluish and one's got more of a neutral tone. So I'm just going to cut off some of the blobs that are around them. That'll make more sense a bit later, but I'm going to put them onto a vellum sheet and I'm going to cut them out rather than actually sticking them straight to the 12x12. Now 49er Market, they're fabulous for doing like little splatters on their rub-ons, and when I cut this out they're going to get cut off, so I've actually cut off some of them before I've stuck it down and I will try and use those up at the end of the layout. I find if you put the little bits back, rub-ons back in the bag, it doesn't work for me, so I'm going to use them all up, but I'm just trimming them off if you wonder what I'm doing. So these rub-ons rub on really well. I don't know if you've ever used them before or you had nightmares with rub-ons, 10 plus years ago when they were popular the first time. But as you can see, I'm lifting as I'm smoothing and it's going down beautifully. So yeah, I've used these before from this range and I certainly would use them again. I think they work really well on vellum. You get really the delicate look that they were designed for. So I'm just going to trim these out roughly and then I will cut them a little better off camera. So I've got the two sprigs there. I'm thinking of doing some vertical like columns for this layout. I brought in a photograph there. It's not that big. I think it's about it's either 3.5 by 2.5 or maybe it's 4x3. It's not that big. It's a picture of me at my son's wedding, taken without my knowledge by the wedding photographer. And if you get to look at it close, I look upset, and not in a bad way, but it was taken during the speeches and I think I actually relaxed for the first time and I had a bit of a cry. There were some beautiful things said by the bride's brother and by the groom's best man, which is another son of mine. So this picture was taken, as I say, without my knowledge and I really like it. I think the shades of blue in it really go with this range. Even though it's a brighter blue in the photograph, I think it can work really well. I apologise for the light shining on the photograph. I don't know quite how that happened. I'm hoping I'll readjust it soon and you'll get to see that photo better. So I've taken some of the laser cut ribbons and tickets and I'm looking at making them vertical columns. So I'll bring in this shade of blue on the 6x8 paper pack, thinking I could add this somewhere as another column, but it just felt a bit clunky, even if I'd have distressed it, it just felt a bit big, so that didn't last very long and I decided I would matte the photograph on that colour instead, just to help bring in a little bit of brighter blue. So I already feel like this is working. I've got 3 identical tickets, one bottom left, one top middle and one underneath the roses by the photograph. You can't see that one so much at this stage, but I think it pulls out a bit later. So just to add some texture, because so far everything is flat, I am weaving some ribbon through these laser die cuts. They're very sturdy, so they will take that sort of treatment. So I'd gone through my ribbons and I found this flowery one, so I really want to use that as well. So I'm going to make a gap and add that, because the more texture the better. I think it really goes with the photograph, and as you can see I'm wearing quite a hat in that photo and I just think that these textures and these trims really go with that. So I'm liking the way that's going already. So I just bring in another ribbon, a thinner one here, and I'm going to put that through this other piece of laser cut lace. I don't do the paler one. I decided that it's better to have that as a contrast, because by then I will have had 3 different sorts of trimmings on this layout. But as I say, as you can see, it weaves through really easily and doesn't damage the laser cut at all, but just adds another dimension. So I really like the way that's come on. Even though it did take me a little while to find the ribbons in my stash, I feel like it was really worth it. So there's that other pale ticket, and I've got the vellum and then the rose, and you can see that the title I brought in there is a JD 3D woodword. It says wonderful. It was part of a pack of 2. I used the first one on my layout 2 weeks ago, so good value for money. So I've now brought in all the embellishments that I've got left from this range. I've kept them in this tray just to try and keep them all together, and I'm looking at making some clusters. So this bottom left one and then the middle top. So I've got some buttons as well, just to add another texture, and I'm going to be layering things up with foam when I do come to stick things down. So I'm just having a look through, seeing what I've got. A lot of the laser cuts I've actually gently taken out of the packaging, and I will admit that actually takes a little bit of time, because you don't want to break them and or damage them, and some of them are really fine, but it is worth spending the time to do that. So I would really recommend you check out what's in the Hey Little Magpie store. There's loads of 49er Market collections, plus an amazing array of other collections, plus some exclusives to Hey Little Magpie, some die cuts and some, as I say, wood shapes and flare badges, that sort of thing. So definitely worth a look. So I'm now coming back in with some scissors, and I'm just trimming things to different lengths. I just laid them on the lengths that they were in the packaging, or what was left from my previous layout. So now I'm actually looking at making sure they're not all the same height and there's a little bit of difference. So I've trimmed the ribbon in the centre, and I've trimmed the laser cut on the ribbon on the right. So I've stuck that down off camera. That's everything we saw. I didn't think you needed to see me do that, as we'd already sorted out the placement. But I brought in these little bits of rub-ons that I'd cut off, and rather than waste them and drop them back in the packet, I'm just going to add them to add a few little splodges to the background. They're very pale, you can barely see them, but I don't like to waste things, and this way they get used up, and we're not thrown away off the bits of vellum. So there's just a few of those that I will add around. I think there's one that's a bit dark, so I think I don't use that in the end, or I might tuck that in a little corner. But as I say, you can apply these directly to your layout. They work really well. They don't leave an indentation or anything like that. So I would recommend that you try them out. So I feel that this layout's coming to the end. So I'm having a look through the 6x8 rub-ons to see if there's any more splatters or any more bits that I'd like to use. And I noticed that the navy tickets that I've used running down behind the photograph, that's actually the B side of the ticket, so I decide that I may add some rub-ons actually over the top of that. So I will be getting some of those and adding them on, just to add a little bit of contrast. Also, I decided to put some twine in the buttons. I've got 3 buttons eventually, one by the title and one on each of the other 2 clusters, just applied with the glue dot there, and just to add that little bit of movement with the string in them. I also bring in a few little pearls, in fact 3 I think, and I place them in the centre of the ribbon flowers. And you can barely see them in the photograph, but they do actually catch your eye. It took me a while to find 3 that look the same. Not that you can really tell when they're in position, but that's just me. And I'm just literally glue dotting them into place. I'm not even sure where this trim is from. It's been in my stash a very long time, but that is one of the things I'm trying to do this year, is a bit of a use it or lose it. And do you use ribbons? Do you use any sort of trimmings? I think they're coming back a little in scrapbooking, but I'll be interested to know what you think. So as I said, I'm just applying a little bit of another rub-on to those tickets there, just to actually stop them looking so flat. It's barely noticeable, but when you do look at it close up, it's there. So this is the finished layout. Thank you so much for watching. Check out this range at Hey Little Magpie and all the others there. There's a great design team. Have a look at some of the other layouts, some of the other styles, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.